While the rest of America was chasing streaming subscriptions and algorithms, three men in Atlanta were tuning into something different. It was 2011, and Netflix had just begun its global expansion. Hulu was still an experiment. Cable bills were climbing, and millions of black households were cutting the cord, not because they wanted to, but because they had to. Amid this digital gold rush, a new signal quietly appeared on the airwaves. It didn't ask for your credit card. It didn't need Wi-Fi. All you needed was an antenna. They called it Bounce TV. The idea was simple, even radical: to build a free television network that would serve African American audiences who'd been left behind by cable and ignored by Silicon Valley. It wasn't streaming, it wasn't corporate, it was ours. Bounce would become the first 24-hour over-the-air broadcast network created specifically for black viewers, a mix of sitcoms, movies, talk shows, and dramas that reflected everyday life across Black America. But to understand why it mattered, you have to understand what it replaced. Because Bounce wasn't just trying to entertain, it was trying to fill the silence that came after the airwaves stopped caring.
We are glad to have you on this historic day, at this historic moment. We've been talking for months about the digital transition. Now it is finally happening. We are glad to...
The seeds of Bounce TV were planted after the 2009 digital broadcast transition, when the U.S. government forced every television station in America to switch from analog to digital signals. When that happened, something unusual appeared in the spectrum. Each TV channel, which once carried only one program, suddenly had the ability to split into several, known as digital subchannels. That's what those strange numbers mean when you scroll through local stations, channel 5.2 or 5.3. They're smaller, secondary streams that live beneath a station's main signal, cheaper to run, but capable of reaching the same audience. Most big media companies ignored them. They seemed too small to matter, too local, too niche. But to Atlanta entrepreneur Ryan Glover, they looked like the perfect opening. He realized these forgotten slices of broadcast spectrum could host an entirely new kind of network, one that didn't need cable carriage or billion-dollar investment to go nationwide. All he needed were partners with vision, and he found them in Martin Luther King III and Ambassador Andrew Young. Together, they imagined a modern broadcast network that would sit on those overlooked 2 and 3 frequencies, built for the very communities the media industry had left behind. It would be free, accessible, and proudly Black-owned. Funding came the old-fashioned way, through personal investment, community partnerships, and distribution deals with broadcasters like Gray Television and Sinclair. Within its first year, Bounce was available in more than 40 million homes, an astonishing number for a network that didn't even exist 12 months earlier. It was television's oldest business model reborn for a new era: keep costs low, build community trust, and let advertisers pay the bills. The slogan said it all: TV our way. From the start, Bounce faced a tough question: how do you fill 24 hours of programming on a shoestring budget? The answer was nostalgia. Instead of chasing expensive original content, Bounce licensed classic black sitcoms that had vanished from other networks. The Bernie Mac Show, Girlfriends, The Jamie Foxx Show, Half and Half, and The Hughleys. These weren't just reruns. For millions of viewers, they were memories, family dinners, living room laughter, moments of joy that no streaming algorithm could replicate. Bounce knew its audience. It wasn't chasing teenagers with TikTok attention spans or corporate advertisers trying to look diverse. It was speaking directly to working-class black households, the same audience that had made BET and UPN household names a generation earlier, and it worked. Viewers began discovering Bounce on antennas and digital tuners, often by accident, and staying for hours. It became that station you didn't plan to watch, but once you did, it felt like home.
Watch Bounce TV over the air for free. Affordable television antennas are now available in a variety of stores and online. Just connect it to the back of your TV, scan for new channels, and start enjoying Bounce TV and the universe of free broadcast television.
By 2014, the network had a clear identity: familiar, family-focused, and proudly community-driven. But Glover and his partners wanted more than reruns. They wanted new stories. So they decided to make their own. In 2012, Bounce launched its first original sitcom, Family Time. It told the story of a working-class couple who hit the lottery and moved to the suburbs, a modern spin on the Black upward mobility story, shot on a modest budget but packed with heart. The show found an audience almost immediately, and that success gave Bounce the confidence to go bigger. Then came Saints and Sinners, a 2016 drama set in a Georgia church filled with corruption, betrayal, and small-town politics. It was part soap opera, part Southern Gothic, and all Black excellence. Critics called it the scandal that found salvation. Audiences just called it addictive. Within weeks, Saints and Sinners became the highest-rated show in Bounce history, pulling in millions of viewers and proving that a Black-owned broadcast network could compete with cable giants. Bounce followed with In the Cut, a father-son barbershop comedy led by Dorian Wilson. Johnson, a modern dramedy about four men in Atlanta, produced by Cedric the Entertainer. And Act Your Age, a 2023 comedy starring Tisha Campbell, Kim Whitley, and Yvette Nicole Brown that broke the network's premiere record. One by one, Bounce was building its own creative universe, a space where older Black talent could thrive again, and where the community could see versions of itself untouched by corporate filters. It was a quiet revolution, free, funny, and full of faith. If you're enjoying this story, the rise, the struggle, and the resilience behind Black-owned media, make sure to like, share, and subscribe to Black Business Files. Because here, we don't just talk about success, we talk about ownership, and the businesses that built the culture, one bold idea at a time. By 2017, Bounce had become a small giant, one of the most watched African-American broadcast networks in the country. That's when the E.W. Scripps company came calling. Scripps was a century-old media conglomerate looking to expand its television portfolio. In August of that year, it acquired Bounce and its sister networks for just over $300 million. Overnight, Bounce went from a grassroots Black-owned network to part of a billion-dollar corporation. The deal gave Bounce access to more capital, national advertisers, and greater distribution. Under Scripps, it expanded to reach more than 94 million homes and covered over 93% of African-American television households. It was a major business victory, a validation that a Black-created network could thrive on a national scale. But for some longtime fans, the sale raised uncomfortable questions. Was Bounce still Black-owned television, or had it become Black-branded television? The founders defended the move, explaining that growth required resources, and independence without capital could quickly turn into extinction, and in the business sense, they were right. Under Scripps, Bounce maintained steady double-digit revenue growth, around 14% annually, at a time when most networks were shrinking. Still, success came with a cost. Creative risk-taking slowed down. Original programming budgets were trimmed, and the network that once prided itself on being community television now answered to quarterly earnings calls. Bounce had climbed higher than anyone thought possible, but at the top, the air felt a little thinner. Even before the acquisition, Bounce had faced growing pains. In 2014, the network sued Bobcat Films, a production company run by Roger Bobb, over a sitcom called Man and Wife. Bounce claimed the producer failed to deliver episodes on time after advertising space had already been sold. The lawsuit was eventually settled quietly, but it revealed the difficulties of scaling up, the tension between creative freedom and business deadlines. Then came the affiliate disputes. Some local stations that carried Bounce's sub-channel began preempting its programming for local news or paid infomercials. Others dropped the channel entirely. In some cities, loyal viewers woke up one morning to find their favorite shows gone. Not canceled, just replaced by static. Meanwhile, critics pointed out another contradiction. Bounce was founded on the promise of accessibility, but in the streaming era, even free television was starting to disappear from view. As younger audiences shifted to on-demand platforms, Bounce launched Brown Sugar, a $3.99 a month streaming app offering classic Black films like Set It Off, Cooley High, Jason's Lyric, and The Five Heartbeats. It was a smart pivot and one of the first Black-owned streaming services in America. For a time, it worked. But the larger trend was clear. Streaming giants like Tubi, Pluto, and Netflix had begun to eat up the very space Bounce once dominated. By 2024, Scripps announced it was exploring a sale of Bounce. Analysts estimated its value in the hundreds of millions, proof that the network had built real equity, even as questions about its mission lingered. The same platform that had started as a symbol of ownership had now become another corporate commodity. Yet even through controversy and corporate change, Bounce's legacy is undeniable. It proved that free, ad-supported television could still thrive in the age of streaming. It showed that representation and profitability weren't opposites. They were partners. And it gave second lives to the actors, writers, and producers who once defined Black entertainment, but had been sidelined by Hollywood's obsession with youth and novelty through shows like Saints and Sinners, Family Time, and In the Cut. Bounce told everyday Black stories, not just about trauma or struggle, but about humor, love, and community. It celebrated legacy while nurturing new voices. And most importantly, it made sure that those without access to cable or streaming weren't shut out of the culture they helped create. Because when the world moves on to the next platform, the next app, the next paid tier, there's still a family somewhere with an antenna on the roof, watching the Jamie Foxx Show or Saints and Sinners, and feeling seen. That's Bounce, that's legacy, and that's the business of remembering. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to subscribe to Black Business Files, where we uncover the untold stories of entrepreneurship, empire, and endurance. Because in every company that survived, there's a story that refused to be forgotten.